Alright, this is our second edition of the video. It's September 10th. Been a little bit of a delay since our last video, mainly because I had to wait for a lot of materials to come in that we ordered, and we also took the Labor Day weekend off. So looking down here, what I've done is I've taken the tubes. You can look down here, and if you recall, the tubes were in the original video white. This is just a sample. Comes with a very glossy, slick surface, so if you were finishing it as a cardboard, this would be a great surface to do painting. But because we chose to do fiberglass, what we do is we take this layer off. So these are the actual tubes that come with the rocket, and you can see how we've removed the gloss layer because we want a rough, non-gloss surface for the fiberglass. So this is the lower section where the fins go. This is the extender section for the main tube. This is the payload section on the top, and this is the engine tube. So I took, even this had a, if you remember, it was a cardboard brown exterior, but it had a gloss look to it, so I took the gloss off and I roughed it all up with about 60 grit sandpaper. So we've gone ahead and put a line on every tube, and that will be our start line for the fiberglass. We're going to do 2 layers of fiberglass on each tube. We start with a 5-ounce layer once around, and then we'll do a 3-ounce weave as a second coating. So I'm going to do tonight, hopefully, the engine tube. Because this will be our first time doing fiberglass, and see if we have any problems. And if that's successful, then this weekend we'll do the other tubes, and then all the tubes will be coated in fiberglass. Okay, so until next time, see you.
Trekkie.
Okay, today's Sunday, September 13th, and we're going to try to fiberglass the tubes. The last video you saw, I had removed all the gloss coating on the tubes, and what I did is there's 3 lines now on the tubes. There's going to be 2 layers of fiberglass on each tube. One layer is a 5-ounce, which is a coarser mesh, thicker fibers, and the final layer would be 3-ounce. So there's 1 layer of 5, 1 layer of 3. So basically I don't want the starting lines. The mesh is laid out, lined up along this line. First line is where the 5-ounce will start, then the 3-ounce, and we'll actually put a Teflon mesh release film on top. So the idea is it pulls it tight. When it dries, the epoxy doesn't adhere to Teflon, so you pull the sheet off and you end up with a very glassy, smooth surface that requires very little sanding or filling. What I've done to get prepared is I've made these end caps. Each cap has Teflon on it, and the idea is that the Teflon keeps the epoxy from wicking on the inside of the tube or causing any problems, and it helps create a very dead stop with the fiberglass, so you don't have all this frail edges and have to do a lot of sanding. So we have the main booster, and then we have the booster extender tube. This is the eBay tube, just a small ring there. And if you come here close, I'll show you this tube. You can come over here, Ella. So this is the way we'll do it. We'll cut the mesh out. We'll coat the tube right here with epoxy, and we'll bring the fiberglass material starting on the line, and then we'll roll it very carefully, brushing on the epoxy as we roll it out. Go 1 rotation of the tube. So you've got the first line for the 5-ounce, second line for the 3-ounce, and the Teflon coating. The end caps are basically a coupler. That's a tube that can fit inside this tube with another tube that's the same diameter here, so we make these caps. So I coat it with a plastic packing tape. Then on top of that I put Teflon tape. So the idea is you feed it in. If you look here closely, I'll push, and you see when I push, it kind of bulks up the Teflon tape. So the tape actually butts up and fills a slight space between the cap of the tube. So the idea is the edge of the tube has Teflon tape in. So if I go further over with epoxy or whatever as I'm brushing, the idea of this line here will be a clean break when the fiberglass is dried. So we got one for this side. Basically push it on. You can see it gap it up. And that tube then is ready. So all three of these tubes are ready. This tube will get both layers of fiberglass and a Teflon coating today. This tube will too. These two will only get the 5 ounce because after these are dried, we have to actually bond this tube to the end of this tube. So we'll actually take the 3 ounce and one long piece and go around both tubes. So the idea is we get rid of the seam where these two are bonded together. So that actually will happen after the fins are on and the whole engine. So today we're doing 1 layer each of these, and these two would ideally be completed. They'll get the Teflon, so they get a glass coating. So now we'll cut the fiber and get ready to do the actual fiberglass. Okay, we're going to show you fiberglass on one of the tubes. So the fiberglass we're using epoxy West Systems, the 105 epoxy resin with a 206 hardener. This is actually a slow hardener. Depending on the temperature, it should give me up to an hour, but it's actually curing a little faster tonight because it's warm. It's above 70. So these meter out the pump. Basically it's a 5-to-1 ratio, but the pumps are set up where one pump of this is 5 times this. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and then 2 of these. 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's 5-to-1. Pumps make it a lot easier. We stir this up for about 5 minutes. Well, not 5 minutes, but a minute. It turns kind of a milky color as you stir it up. So it's very fluid. That's the whole idea. It's an epoxy, but a very liquid type. So that allows it to flow into the mesh. You can actually put an additive in it, that will thicken it up. You can thicken this all the way up to like almost like peanut butter. And you can use it like a regular epoxy for gluing pretty much anything. So it's very versatile. Unlike like auto, where they use like a polyester, this is an epoxy, so it dries clear. It's a lot more fine, a lot stronger than like fiberglass or Bondo type work. So you can see here it's turning almost kind of a milky color. Alright, now we're ready to start applying the epoxy. So you want to stop?
Okay.
Okay, so it's a 3-step process. This is a 5 ounce weave, almost 6 ounce. You can see how coarser it is. Then this is a 3 ounce weave. Basically that's the weight per, I think, cubic yard. So it's a 5 ounce, 3 ounce tighter weave. And this is a Teflon release film. So basically it's the last we put on. You actually put epoxy on this, but it's Teflon. As we said earlier, it doesn't stick to Teflon, so you wrap this, keeps everything tight. This will actually be removed once the epoxy dries, and it gives you more of a finer finish without having to do a lot of sanding. So there's 3 start lines. The first start line is where we'll start the coarse mesh. We'll go once around, and we'll start the fine on this line. This way the seams are not lining up and building up. I do overlap about 1/8 of an inch. And then we'll start the Teflon. The Teflon goes around twice. So we start first with the coarse. I put epoxy on the tube to get it wet. You can see I'm getting it wet at the start line. Like that. Then I bring the mesh over, like this. Line up the mesh on the start line, like so. You can see as the fiberglass gets wet, it goes clear. So the idea is it's glass fibers with the epoxy, goes to a clear look, and it's pretty much transparent when you're done. So the way we do it now, we just start wetting it out, brushing it out. If you remember, I said the caps have Teflon on the tips, so it doesn't hurt that I go over. The idea it's not going to wick, or it'll give me a definite line that I can remove the caps where the epoxy hasn't bonded, and then it will allow me to separate and make a clear line. So then we rotate this, we wet it out some more. You can see how it's wetting the cardboard, wetting the, that's when you know you've got enough. You actually, the weave gets transparent, you can't even see it. And you just keep working it slowly around. We're going to do one wrap of the 5, and then we'll do one wrap of the 3. You can see how it's getting transparent there. Go up to the edges, kind of blot it on. You can reposition with the brush by pulling it. You can see that section there as I wet it, it starts to disappear. I brush it out, and we'll keep going around. We'll stop the video right now, so because I know it gets kind of boring. So we're coming to the end of the first layer, the 5 ounce. You can see the ends are coming. There's the original line. We just dab it out, kind of pull it kind of that way. You can see it just kind of disappears.
It's fascinating.
And there it goes. Alright, now we start the finer weave. This is the next line, which is offset from the start of the first weave. We tack it in place, like so. And start the process over. Now we put on the second layer of fiberglass, the 3-ounce. It also goes around one time. Alright, we'll stop there and we'll come back and we're... So we're coming to the end of the 3-ounce weave. Again, it disappears right in. You see our start line where we started originally. Get it all wetting out there. So I'll do some pulls to make sure it's pulling. And pull it, pull it, pull it. Alright, now we're starting. This is our Teflon pull. Get on our Teflon. Now we go around twice with this. And we got a different line, and we actually want this to overlap. We intentionally cut it big. Don't want to cover the whole tube. So you can see, starting a line like that. And it works very similar. Doesn't make an obvious disappearance though, like, because it's such a fine mesh of Teflon. The idea is it actually holds a lot of the epoxy up. It kind of levels it out basically. We'll cut there and come back in a few minutes. Alright, so we've reached our 1 revolution. This is the line we started originally. So we got one more wrap of the Teflon. So I'm pulling, try to make sure it really adheres, pulls it all together. No bubbles. Just keep going around some more. You can see where we're overlapping now. Okay, we'll cut there and we'll come back when we're done. Alright, so we're coming to the end of the Teflon. Basically we're going to let these dry for about 2 days, and then we'll peel the Teflon off. Now the 2 booster tubes only received a 5-ounce, so we got to wait till we put the fins on and all that and connect the 2 together, so we can put we'll go back and put the 3-ounce and this Teflon, but one continuous piece, so there's no, the seam is hidden for the 2 tubes that are be coupled together. So 2 days from now we'll continue the video.
Yay. Be trucky.